Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Laura Boudon, Director of Study Abroad Programs at Georgia State University and moderator of today's session. On behalf of the Atlanta Global Studies Center, the Center for Urban Language Teaching and Research, the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies, GSU's Global Studies Program, and Study Abroad Programs, I'd like to welcome you to GSU's Spring 2022 Global Career Series. This series features representatives from globally connected organizations to talk to students and recent graduates about rewarding opportunities to work in global spaces, either in Atlanta or abroad. We hope students will feel inspired to build their global skills and pursue global careers, internships, and volunteer opportunities. Today's session will focus on the U.S. Foreign Service. We are delighted to bring you representatives from the U.S. Department of State, USAID, and the Peace Corps. Our panelists today are Alan DuBose, Kathy Bodie, and Jackie Valadez. I'd like to ask the panelists to introduce themselves and tell us a bit more about how their positions relate to global careers, internships, and volunteer opportunities.
Thank you very much, Laura. I'll start. My name is Alan DuBose, and I am a U.S. Foreign Service officer. We're termed diplomats. So we have different positions where we're serving overseas, but we're all diplomats. My role currently is what's called a diplomat in residence, which is really nothing more than recruiter. So I'm spending a 3-year period trying to find the best and the brightest who are going to take care of me in retirement when I go abroad and lose my passport. So I'm excited to talk to everybody about our careers in the U.S. Foreign Service with the U.S. Department of State.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kathy Bodie. I am a Senior Foreign Service Officer with USAID. I have 32 years of experience in financial management. My job relates to global careers because my position supports all the development impact efforts that we do overseas. And we are actively recruiting for careers that support those development or in those development career areas. And I'm happy to be here today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jackie Valadez. I am a Peace Corps recruiter. And in my role, I am the first person you probably make contact with. So as it connects to global careers, I am the individual that is supporting anyone who's interested in Peace Corps in answering their questions, guiding them through the application, giving them a realistic expectation of what the Peace Corps is and what Peace Corps service could be like. So I'm your first stop along the way. And for any additional context, I was also a Peace Corps volunteer in Panama as from 2017 to 2019. Excited to share more.
Thank you. We are thrilled that you could participate in today's panel. Before we continue, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Just as a reminder, if you're just joining us, this session is being recorded. We ask that you keep your mics muted to reduce any noise during the presentation. There will be about 25 minutes for Q&A after the panelist presentations. Feel free to type your questions in the chat at any time. And now let's learn more about these organizations. Let's start with Alan.
And again, thank you. I'm going to talk kind of fast, but if you look in the chat, you'll see a link to careers.state.gov. Probably 90% of what comes out of my mouth today, you're going to be able to find there and in detail with explanations. So what I'm going to focus on today is just really going over who we are and then student programs. The U.S. Department of State is the oldest federal agency, and essentially what happened with the Foreign Service Act in 1924 is they decided they were going to start cobbling together those more foreign parts of the U.S. Department of State and create the U.S. Foreign Service. So think of it this way. Everybody who is in the U.S. Foreign Service is also an employee of the Department of State. However, not all people who are employees of the Department of State are part of the U.S. Foreign Service. What we're going to focus on today are those who are in the U.S. Foreign Service and how we get to that point if you're a student. Essentially, what I wanted to talk about in some of the student programs are just some of our flagship programs. One of the best known ones are our Wrangell and Pickering Fellowships that are administered by Howard University. And these are 2-year fellowships for students who would be graduating seniors, or they've already graduated and they want to go back and get that 2-year master's degree. And this is an extremely competitive program, but it's like ROTC for the military, that we pay for your 2 years of education as a master's degree. We have 2 internships for you, either at Capitol Hill and Maine State or overseas. And after that, you have a 5-year commitment minimum. But the reality is most people who are Wrangell and Pickering Fellows end up with full careers in the U.S. Foreign Service. So you can find out more about that at careers.state.gov. There's also a separate program that undergraduates can take advantage of called the Wrangell Summer Enrichment. Again, very competitive program, but this is the steal of all of our programs, in my opinion, because an undergrad student who becomes a Wrangell Scholar would go to Howard University campus and stay there on Uncle Sam's dime and take classes, and you may be able to get credit at your school for those classes, and they take you on these great field trips and you get to visit other agencies, and you're basically being prepped and prepared for the U.S. Foreign Service. But unlike the fellowships, there's no commitment. So you get paid $3,200 to learn and be prepared for a future career. And you bet if someone's a Wrangell Scholar and they do choose to compete for a fellowship in the future, they'll be well positioned. A few of the other student programs I wanted to mention are, let's see, there's one I definitely want to focus on because there are massive changes going on. And this is our General Student Internship. Department of State Student Internship has historically been unpaid. This is the one where students can either intern in DC or they can intern in our embassies and consulates abroad. And imagine how expensive that can be. Well, 3 days ago now, they have announced a starter program where they're offering paid internships, a limited number of paid internships, fall of 2022. And I encourage you, as soon as this meeting is over, to go read about it, because the way they're doing it is they are saying we have a cap on the number of applications we will receive. So no matter what the deadline is, if they reach that cap, they're going to shut it down. And I'm pretty confident they're going to reach that cap before the deadline. So this is the internship program where students can spend time in DC or they can be at a consulate or embassy abroad. And this is the U.S. Department of State Internship Program. There's another one called the USFSIP, U.S. Foreign Service Internship Program. That is a 2-year internship for students. And the students would have intermingled as part of the internship's 2-year program. So again, they are being prepared. One significant issue about USFSIP is a major determinant is financial need. So not only do you have to be great at everything, but you have to have demonstrated, documented financial need. The other programs I'll talk very quickly about are our Pathways programs. Pathways programs are federal government programs and the Department of State participates in them. But when you go to usajobs.gov and click on Pathways, you'll see other agencies as well. And there are basically 2 type programs. One of the programs is really oriented towards people who are going to be more in the civil service for their full-time careers. It doesn't require them, but that's really the intent. And these students would go through the internship program and they are paid. The other is the Recent Graduates Program. So the Recent Graduates Program is more like a prep. If someone goes through this internship, then they can compete for jobs in a non-compete environment, which means that they wouldn't be competing for full-time careers against the world. It would just be for people who have that same status. So it makes it a little easier for them to get in. But since we spent a year training you, we want you to get in. The last ones I'm going to talk about very quickly are VSFS. And this is the one that sneaks up on people because it opens up in the summer. So on July 1, VSFS should open. And this is a program that was built to be virtual. Again, federal government program, so other agencies participate. But the decisions are made during the month of July. And then the students, when their academic year starts, work virtually. So for example, I would meet with my VSF intern on a Monday and we would go through the assignments. I knew she couldn't work more than 10 hours a week on this unpaid internship. And then we'd meet the next Monday and she would either deliver or tell me the status of where she is in her assignment. And this was the cycle we would go through. So not only is this program taking into account, we know your students, and we're not going to ask for more than 10 hours a week, but if you have heavy exam time, we're going to recognize that. And also, it kind of has a built-in mentoring aspect to it because you are working either one-on-one or in small group environments with Foreign Service professionals. So those are the programs I'm going to talk about. Again, everything you can find at careers.state.gov, and I encourage you to look immediately after we finish here.
Guess it's over to me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about USAID and what we do. USAID is a federal agency that has over 60 years leading development assistance and foreign aid across and humanitarian aid across the world. We provide humanitarian efforts to save lives, reduce poverty, strengthen democratic governance, and to help people progress beyond assistance. Our primary objective is to support. Oh, I didn't share my screen. Let me share my screen. Sorry about that. So you can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, there we are. Can you all see that? Hello?
Looks good.
Okay, great. So, yes. So USAID is a leading foreign assistance agency. I mean, we're the leader in humanitarian assistance, as I mentioned. We also work closely with the State Department and under the U.S. Secretary of State for foreign policy guidance. Our objective is to support our partner countries to become self-reliant and resilient. And we also help them to build communities, advance democracy, and help lift lives. Our work also advances national security and economic prosperity, and we demonstrate the generosity of American people through our work. We're impacting global development in many ways: agriculture, food security, democracy, human rights, health, just to name a few. And we have careers that support each one of these global development impact areas. We also have careers that are in humanitarian assistance as well. In addition to these global development impact areas, we also have careers that support these areas, such as the financial management area, which is my background. We also have legal, contracting, administrative or executive, and program. Those are the other areas that support the development areas in these other careers. Now, I failed to mention in my opening that I am the acting development diplomat in residence for the South, which is based in Atlanta, but I'm supporting from Washington at this point. We are here to provide guidance and advice on careers and internships and fellowships to students, professionals, and faculty in our region and beyond. One of the specific things we try to do is recruit for foreign service for those interested in the foreign service. We also serve as a good resource for those students and professionals and everyone that is interested in our areas. The internships and fellowships through Pathways, We offer a limited number of paid fellowships through the Pathways program. As Alan has mentioned, we are one of the agencies that also implement the Pathways program or have that. The first Pathways, there are 3 levels to Pathways, as the Pathways internship, which is a program that you have to be a student. It's a 10-week paid summer internship, and applications are accepted October through December timeframe each year. We also have the Recent Graduates Program, which is a 1-year development program for both undergraduate and graduate students can qualify for this program. And it's a program that you may apply within 2 years of graduation. We also have a program called Presidential Fellowships, Presidential Management Fellowship Program, which is a direct link into the Foreign Service, and it seeks to bring in professionals into the federal service, talented women and men who demonstrate excellence, possess management and leadership potential, and have clear interest and commitment to public service. This is one of our premier programs. It's a 2-year development program for advanced degrees, with those with advanced degrees, and you can apply within 2 years of graduation. We also have internships that are offered by third-party institutions, such as minority serving institutions, such as the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, International Leadership Foundation, and various institutions. Then the Payne Fellowship is a program, it's a graduate program that we partner with Howard University. It's a 2-year program that offers $104,000 over the 2-year period that pays for tuition, fees, living expenses, and the summer internships that are offered. And this fellowship is 10 weeks in Washington, 10 weeks in the at a USAID mission to gain experience. You get mentoring by a Foreign Service officer, and it leads directly to employment in the Foreign Service. How do you get experience with USAID that's needed for a position at USAID? PeaceCorps is a good source of employees that USAID hire. We hire a lot of PeaceCorps, former PeaceCorps volunteers, experience from NGOs, mission. There are people who come overseas to get the special immigrant visa. We hire those people to come into the agency. Military services also one, and just employment with other federal agencies is also a good source for both Foreign Service officers and civil service officers. The employment requirements that we require, you have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be able to obtain a clearance, and that means security, background checks. You have to be able to pass that for all of USAID positions. And for non-citizens, employment is possible overseas at some of our USAID missions. I will leave it there. And if you're looking for career opportunities, you can always go to usaid.gov/careers. Let me stop sharing and go back. So over to you, Jackie.
Thank you so much. So we'll end this round here, and I get to talk about my favorite organization. So I get to talk about the Peace Corps. We are another federal agency, and our work is done overseas in countries that have specifically requested Peace Corps support. So once we are in these countries, we aim to promote world peace and friendship, and we do that by working with the host country to build capacities or like a skill set, the skill set of the local population in areas the country has specifically requested them in or would like support in. So usually this means that someone we call a Peace Corps volunteer will work alongside community members to create projects together that do address needs in the community. And ideally, these projects will be worked on during the duration of Peace Corps service, and they will continue after Peace Corps service ends because there is an ending point to being a Peace Corps volunteer. So while we work in this way, we very closely with community members, very much at that grassroots level, the Peace Corps volunteer gets to promote a better understanding of our culture here in the US, that we are more than the media and the news, and vice versa, where the host country community can promote a better understanding of their culture to the Peace Corps volunteer and eventually to the US population with that Peace Corps volunteer coming back. I did want to share, a very short slide deck here, and just to highlight some of those program areas that we work in. So I believe y'all can see this here, but we work in one of these 6 areas. So every Peace Corps role or job that we have falls within one of these 6 areas. Sometimes it might be a hybrid of 2. Ideally, the person will work within this framework for 2 years, creating projects that address needs in this specified framework. So in the Peace Corps, once you join, you are told what role you've been accepted for, and you get to prepare for that. And then once you start your service, you will be trained for 3 months. So you don't get to work right away. We train you for 3 months. And in that training, you learn more about what your job entails. So we provide a lot of training. The staff provides a lot of training. We train you on the language, very important. That's the #1 thing that we are trying to get at. We train you on the cultural norms within that profession, just to make sure your work is also very respectful of cultural norms and you're building that global awareness component. And then another part within Peace Corps, I did want to highlight that although, as I shared in my introduction, I was a Peace Corps volunteer in the beautiful country of Panama, if anyone's interested in going there, but we are also in over 60 other countries, as you can see on this map. So if you don't really want to go to Panama, it's okay. There are other countries you can certainly choose from, or we can choose for you, up to you. We do not have a language requirement if you would like to join the Peace Corps, but I would like to clear up that if you want to be considered for a role in Spanish-speaking Latin America or in a French-speaking country within the continent of Africa, you will have to take 2 semesters at a college level, ideally, or you will have to provide some other form of either 4 years of high school or be a heritage or native speaker. But those are the only 2 regions that may have a language requirement. Beyond that, we don't have a language requirement because we train you on it. And we train you on everything you need to do your job successfully. While you are a Peace Corps volunteer, the Peace Corps will provide you with a monthly stipend. We will cover your health care, your dental care, we'll cover your housing. You can defer any federal student loans if you have any. So it's a great way, especially for those that are about to soon graduate or recently graduate, to get to work in this way, to continue to practice a skill set and really put their major to work in many ways. And then after your Peace Corps service, you do have an advantage within the federal hiring process. So you have a preferential hiring status we call non-competitive eligibility, where you can use that to apply for federal jobs. Maybe it is within Foreign Service, maybe it is within USAID, and you can go from there to continue to specialize in the skill set you developed within your role as a Peace Corps volunteer if you loved being abroad. We do have 2 requirements. One is that you be 18 years old, at least 18 years old or older, and be a US citizen. You can be 18 years old. You can also be within your 20s, 30s. There's no upper limit, 50s, in your 80s. I was a Peace Corps volunteer and we had someone who celebrated their 80th birthday. So there was no upper limit. But that is just insight into what the Peace Corps volunteers do. They work overseas within the communities to address the needs of that community, to work with them, to create solutions. And hopefully I've inspired someone to apply. We accept applications all year, and you can find some of these programs on our website, which I will put in the chat box shortly. I'll put the link in. Peace Corps volunteer openings, and you can apply anytime. I am happy to work with anyone if they are interested in pursuing a role with us. And we can go back to Laura now.
Thank you so much to all of you for describing the work that you do in your organizations. And I'm going to start our discussion off with a few basic questions. And Alan, I'll begin with you. Considering all that is going on in the world today, could you share with our audience why you think students should prepare for global careers?
Well, I think you just kind of summed it up. With all that's going on in the world, everything becomes local. That we can choose to think we're living in our little community, but turn on the TV or talk to enough people, and sooner or later we're going to link to someone who is in another country, or possibly to something we even see on the news. And so one of the things that I think is important for students to understand if they're looking for a career in the U.S. Foreign Service, that it doesn't happen overnight. It is a process because it is very competitive. We look for what are called 13 dimensions. And these are basically characteristics that we have seen people who have successful careers in the U.S. Foreign Service have. So for example, judgment and language skills, of course. And as Jackie mentioned in the Peace Corps, she didn't use the term, but we call it cultural adaptability, which is basically learning how to deal in a culture that's different than yours. So you may be the best at whatever you do, but if we pick you up from wherever you are and drop you in some other place, are you going to crash and burn? Or are you going to look at this like a challenge that you enjoy overcoming? So it is a process of the students paying attention to what's going on around them, thinking globally instead of locally, and developing their skills.
Kathy or Jackie, did either one of you want to answer that question as well?
Yeah, I think Alan did a great job of answering that and the importance of that. I did also want to share that a lot of these components come back into your local job. Everything you learn overseas, you can apply it to any job here. Being aware of navigating those superficial differences and different ways of thinking. It's a really great skill set to have within the professional world, even if your job does not take place internationally. After you might do Peace Corps in this case, and you decide to work here locally, you can still certainly apply and transfer so many of those skills in working here, because we have a very diverse population in the US alone. So these are skills that will always be very, very useful.
I agree with what both Alan and Jackie said. I think the skill set you need to work in a global context is whether you're in Washington at our headquarters here or overseas, you can contribute in some way to the development efforts that we have around the world, no matter which office you're working in, whether it's health, economic growth, democracy and governance, whichever area you're working in, you can support and have skills that can support the development efforts that we have.
And maybe Jackie, I'll start this next question off for you. How does studying abroad prepare students for a potential job in the Peace Corps or other positions in this line of work?
Oh man, study abroad. Oh, well, I do want to preface this though. It is not necessary to study abroad to join the Peace Corps. So if you don't get to study abroad, it's okay. But if you do get a chance and the opportunity to definitely study abroad, if you can, it can be so helpful. You get to experience being somewhere new, and you get to really experience those emotions. There's a lot of self-growth with that. Those moments where you are away from your family, that homesickness component of wanting to communicate, but not having the sufficient vocabulary in that language. So being able to study abroad, you get a nice preview of that, and you get to learn how to navigate those situations that may be tough. And ideally, studying abroad, you can keep that tool set for your own skill set for the rest of your life. And if you choose to go to Peace Corps, you've been in situations before where you can build on something you might have experienced in the past and maybe navigate it a little bit more successfully. So I'll always advocate for studying abroad. If you certainly can pursue it, definitely do take advantage of it.
I'm next. I'll jump in here. Study abroad. Okay, so people immediately think, oh, I get to learn another language. That's true. However, we can teach languages. So we have a place called Foreign Service Institute, which is about a 70-acre campus in Northern Virginia, where we have a cadre of professional language speakers who are mostly native born, and they will teach you anything from Russian, Arabic, Nepali, things you've never even known existed. So while it will never hurt you to enter the US Foreign Service with a foreign language, we are focused more on the skills you bring. And one of those skills is demonstrating your ability to learn whatever we want to teach you. So that's why I go back to when one studies abroad, yeah, they can learn language, go for it, do it. However, how do you navigate in that country? Do you adjust well? How do you deal with people who are different from you? I go back to that cultural ability or developing some other skills that it might have been kind of easy to do this stuff in the States, and you get abroad and they're doing it a completely different way. And now you have to learn maybe some negotiation skills or something else that you didn't have to really worry about in the States. So overall, I would say studying abroad more than anything makes you become more independent, and you have to figure out how to overcome problems frequently in unconventional ways.
I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think it definitely teaches you to become more adaptable and flexible in adjusting to different cultures and become more culturally competent in what you're doing and respectful of cultures. And that can only help you as you go forward in a career if in the Foreign Service, if that's your path. Definitely think.
Thank you. I'm going to go to a question in the chat from one of our participants, which is most of the opportunities listed have the requirement of being a U.S. citizen. Are there any platforms for, I guess, opportunities for international students? If one of you would like to answer that question. The question is to all three of you.
I'll do a quick one. I was actually typing, but basically, the U.S. Foreign Service does require U.S. citizenship. It doesn't matter if you were born in the States. If you were naturalized, you just have to have U.S. citizenship. One of the reasons is all these positions require a minimum of a secret level clearance, and most of the professional careers require a top secret level clearance. And by default, one has to be a U.S. citizen to be able to get those clearances. So the direct answer to the question, are there any opportunities? And the answer is, when we're abroad, we have embassies or consulates. Let me take, for example, I'll just pick one, Brasilia. The majority of people who work at that embassy are not in the U.S. Foreign Service. The majority of the people who are actually doing the day-to-day work are people who are from Brazil. And they are eligible to work for that embassy. So they're not part of the Foreign Service. To them, it would be like doing a civil service job would be to us, where they are doing a lot of the day-to-day work and have very good careers, because as we travel from country to country to country, if I go to Brazil right now, they got to show me where the bathroom is. Well, these people are institutional knowledge. They explain how things work in that country. So they can have very good careers in that country, but they would be working for that embassy. They wouldn't be working other than that.
Yes, similar to the way that the embassy works, USAID hire Foreign Service nationals as well locally to work, and that is an avenue of employment for non-citizens. And then most people have long careers with USAID, working in the embassies and USAID overseas in this context and in this career path as well.
So Jackie, there were a couple of questions specific to you. I will combine them. Why did you decide to join the Peace Corps? And then this is another question related to the Peace Corps and for you as well, of the program areas for the Peace Corps, which are the most competitive, which are the most attractive right now.
Yeah, so I was in the middle of typing the response to those, but I joined the Peace Corps. Originally, I was drawn because when I learned about Peace Corps, I saw they actually served in the country where my family is from. I was so drawn into wanting to work to support my people, in short. So then it was in El Salvador and also in Mexico. My family, I come from both places. And that stayed with me to be able to work and give back to my community in some way, shape, or form. That stayed with me throughout the rest of college. And then as I continued to grow, I realized, I don't have to just go there. I can go anywhere in the world. And I really want to work in a meaningful way and work alongside community members in any way I was needed. So that was my reason for joining. It tends to be a very personal reason. And if you share any sentiments like that, then I encourage you to explore Peace Corps. As for which areas tend to be most competitive for Peace Corps, in terms of program areas, I will say it's the more so youth development, community economic development, only because compared to sort of the ratio or the proportion, we don't have that many positions compared to maybe education, which is our largest. So that's why it tends to be competitive. A lot of people want to apply to these roles, but we may not have so many roles offered. And as for attractive roles maybe because I work at Peace Corps, I'm just like, all of them are attractive. But let's see, the attractive role, any that are attractive, I guess I don't know how to interpret that, but those that tend to be most applied to, if I can interpret it in that way, I think do tend to be those that are maybe where Spanish is spoken. So I think it's something that a lot of people do address to me that I've seen as a recruiter is, I want to learn Spanish. I want to become fluent. I want to connect more with people that speak Spanish in the US. And those tend to be very applied to with the people that I work with. But certainly everyone has their reason for applying to several countries. But those are some insights I have.
We have another question that has just been posed from our audience about the application process for the U.S. Department of State internship program.
So what I'm going to encourage anybody who wants to know the details of how to apply to go to careers.state.gov. The way our application processes work for internships are that they are actually offered, normally applied to through usajobs.gov. However, if you go to usajobs.gov, you have the whole federal government to sort through to try to find the one you're interested in. So if you go to careers.state.gov, it will have the link directly to that opportunity. From that point forward, here's the little thing students should always do. The vacancy announcement is their Bible. It doesn't matter what we say here. We could make a mistake. That vacancy announcement is the guiding document. So whenever a student says to me, what do I do to apply for this or what's required? I always say, go to careers.state.gov, find the exact position you want to apply for, click on it. It will take you to usajobs.gov. And there will be excruciating detail explaining the education requirements, clearance requirements, citizenship status. If you can substitute work experience for education, it goes through every single detail. And this is huge because a lot of people apply and they're not even qualified. And I don't mean that in a negative way. They don't meet all the qualifications. The computer spits them out and a human being never even sees it. So it's very important to do exactly what that vacancy announcement tells you to do. And for the US State Department internship program, again, I encourage you to do it today. Go there today because this is the first time we're offering paid. So we're going to have so many people apply. I can't imagine.
So Kathy, maybe you could start us off with this next question, which is what tangible steps can students take while still in college to improve their chances of landing an internship or a future job in your organization?
I think I'm definitely gaining community experience and even the study abroad program, just building their skills with volunteering. Those things are looked at as far as the skill area, building your resume, maybe even looking at positions with some of the NGOs or contractors that are student level positions, because they also offer sometimes internships, and just building your resume and your skills based on that makes your resume a little bit more robust in your skill area. I just want to add to Alan's comment about going to USA jobs and applying for jobs. Also, when you're applying, just make sure that you focus on the skills and the qualifications as it relates to the skill area for the positions. Because if you apply for a job and or a position and you don't have any of the language in your resume or your application that relates directly to the job that you're applying for, it also may not be seen by a human. The computer may spit it out. So, or overlook it. So you may want to just look at, if it says accounting, you want to make sure you have accounting in your resume or your application.
Helen or Jackie, would you like to add anything in response to that question?
I have one real quick to kind of piggyback on what Kathy was talking about. There is a federal government template, and I encourage all students to go to usajobs.gov and set up their resume and all their experience in education using that template, and it'll force you to put the information in the way that computers like to see it, and makes it easier for the human beings to read once it gets to their point. If there's any confusion about how you want to phrase things, OPM has webinars. Is it opm.gov, I believe is their website. And you should go there, and they will have webinars from time to time where they go through, again, a lot of detail about how to write an effective resume in the government style. So you should have that pretty much on file, ready to go. So when you see something open that has a maximum number of applicants, which happens a lot, so they'll say, oh, it's going to be open for 30 days, but we're topping it off with this many applicants. Sometimes those jobs go in 24 hours. So you should have everything ready to go. So when you see this, you just click submit.
And as for Peace Corps, maybe if anyone's interested here, I will say, do your research now to join the Peace Corps. I did post the volunteer openings link earlier, but doing your research now can help you, because maybe there is a language requirement and you have time to take that foreign language, if either Spanish or French. If you are still early on in your college career, and you can have a related major or change or specify a track related to one of our program areas, because you want to be competitive, you can do that. Another step you can take is to get involved. That's something that has been shared already. Get involved either on campus, off campus, or if you can't get involved, make sure you stay motivated in your job. We don't have volunteering as a requirement to join us, but you do want to see some level of motivation within your resume. But definitely doing your research is a great step, so you can get a preview of what's going to be asked from you in the application process, so you're not surprised later on down the line, and you have everything ready to go.
Thank you so much. And if maybe each one of you could speak about what degrees are held by most of your colleagues in the field, and are graduate degrees needed and or recommended?
Well, I'll jump in again first. There are basically two types of career paths in U.S. Foreign Service. One of them is what we call officers, but we also use the term generalists, and the other are specialists. The officers are what you think of when you see the movies or TV about the diplomats. There are only 5 jobs. They're political, economic, public diplomacy, which is the face, the spokesman, consular, which is unique to us, and management. Now, here's the irony. They don't require college degrees. They don't require you to have any specific major. I have met people who majored in music and some things you would never think of, but they become political officers because our attitude is, we will teach you what we need you to know if you have the ability to learn it, execute it, and continually be in this process throughout your career. Now, with that irony of not requiring a college degree, I think I saw a statistic that something like 70% of the people in the Foreign Service actually have master's degrees. And it's not unusual for many of them to have PhDs. We have authors throughout the US Foreign Service. So my point is, even though it's not a requirement, it's a very academically oriented organization. And they're always thinking of lifetime learning, be it in a formal way or an informal way. And then before my colleagues go on, the Foreign Service specialists, who are also diplomats, they come in and they will have education requirements based on whatever their skills are. So when they enter the US Foreign Service, if you're a facility manager, a construction engineer, or a doctor, or a psychiatrist, you are going to have certain education requirements and sometimes experience requirements. And to know those details, you would look at that vacancy announcement and they would tell you exactly what those requirements are.
For USAID, for most of our Foreign Service careers, a master's degree is required. So whether you're technical meaning in the area of health, education, democracy and governance, humanitarian assistance, program, contracting, master's degrees are required. For the backstop that I'm in, or the field that I'm in, financial management, you are required to have 30 hours of accounting and a minimum of a bachelor's degree. But you have to have 30 hours in accounting. It is the only Foreign Service field that does not require a master's degree. I think I'll leave it there.
And as for me here at Peace Corps, there is no particular degree that is required. As you saw, we have so many program areas that my colleagues have majors within one of those 6 program areas, or usually it's like international affairs is very common to see too. Because we all serve in different roles, we all have different education backgrounds. Now, if you do want to apply to some roles may strongly recommend having a 4-year degree in a particular area. Having a master's or a graduate degree is not necessary. If you do want to be competitive, that can be something you can pursue, but no, it's not a requirement to join us. Several people have served, including myself, that do not have graduate degrees. In fact, that's one of the benefits of Peace Corps that I forgot to bring in, but if you do Peace Corps, you qualify to go back to school if you want to pursue a graduate degree at a reduced rate at many partnering institutions. But advanced degree is not required to Peace Corps, to join Peace Corps.
And maybe a little bit more about your own personal journeys. Maybe Kathy, you want to start us off. What did you study in college? And did you plan on the career you have now, or did you expect to have a different career? If each one of you wouldn't mind tackling that question.
I started out with USAID as an intern, a cooperative education student intern in accounting. So I was an accountant trainee. So I joined the agency as an accountant trainee intern. I moved on to an accountant, which then led me to, in the financial management office, of course, which then led me to become a financial management officer. Controller is our functional titles, in working overseas. So I would say yes. My plan was to join the Foreign Service. In joining, how I was going to get there, I wasn't sure, but eventually I got there because I was civil service first, and then I converted over to Foreign Service. So those opportunities sometimes exist, but most time people come in as directly as Foreign Service officers and not converting from civil service to Foreign Service.
I can go. And so my journey has been, I actually served as a Peace Corps volunteer. I applied from school. I majored in languages because it's what I loved. So linguistics and Romance languages. And I was invited to serve in Panama as an education volunteer. And as I was completing my Peace Corps service, it was not my intention to work for Peace Corps. I do want to preface that, it just happened. I was motivated to pursue a staff role within the Peace Corps after completing my Peace Corps volunteer service, because I was really motivated in the job description. I wanted to share a more accurate representation of what the Georgia population for me looked like. I'm from Georgia, born and raised, and wanted to reflect that diversity within Peace Corps. So my role was Peace Corps volunteer, using that non-competitive eligibility for applying to a federal job within the Peace Corps. And now I have this role as a Peace Corps recruiter.
So now I've unmuted. All right, my story. I graduated, had my MBA, and what do MBAs do? They want to make money. So I wanted to go out and make money. And my goal was to do whatever I needed to do, make as much money as I could, as quickly as I could, which meant job hopping. So every 2 years or so, I was going from one job to another, normally making more money, but not always. And that's going to come back. So eventually I ended up with a company called Iridium LLC. And Iridium LLC was a $6.5 billion startup satellite telecommunications company. I was already grown. I was like 30 years old before I started there. And in 5 years, I worked from the finance department. I was the finance department, employee number 60. We grew to 600. I was the director of business operations for North America. I had over $500,000 in stock options, and I thought I'd be retired by the time I was 45 to 50. And we went bankrupt. I had useless paper, I had a mortgage, and a baby. So I went to Sanctuary, which for me was South Florida, and used some of those skills I had developed by traveling throughout the Americas to work with a lot of people who were coming to the US from Latin America, trying to be entrepreneurs and start their own businesses, but they don't know how to do it in the States. So I was doing my own business that way, and I realized, oh, I'm making money, but I can't support a baby with this. So I took a job with the man, and I was going into my job every day, gloomy that I can't imagine sitting in this job for the next 17 years. And that's when it hit me. What I thought was a pursuit of money was what we call career ADD, meaning that we like some change. And when I saw Colin Powell advertising for US Foreign Service, I said, this is perfect for me. You change your job every 2 to 3 years. It's just that sometimes you're in, like I said, Panama, sometimes you're in Cameroon. You really change your job, not just move down the hall. And I did not look back. It's been a great career, really great career. So I always tell people, when we're looking for good students, everybody's looking for good students. But you know, I don't compete against anybody based on money. I compete for those who are looking for these sorts of careers where it is important either to work in a developing country or to travel or to take on new challenges. That personality trait is probably more important than your GPA in many cases.
Thank you. What diverse journeys to where you are. Thank you for sharing a little bit about your own journeys. And I think this will be our final question, comes from one of our participants. Are there any opportunities that can prepare you or get you involved in the U.S. Department of State and Foreign Service that don't require traveling out of state? And I do want to also make a plug as I'm posing you this question for the previous Global Career Series sessions. The very first one was focused specifically on Atlanta and opportunities in Atlanta. So please check out that recording as well. But maybe you know of opportunities that are, where students are not required to travel out of state.
So I put an answer in there, may not really hit the nail on the head as far as traveling out of state. Here's my take on it, and here's what I explained to everybody. I'll do it as quickly as I can with a real life example. I talked to a student a few years ago And I said, what do you do besides go to school and get good grades? She said, oh, I volunteer at a food bank. And so I said, what do you do there? She said, I do what they tell me to do. Okay, go back to your supervisor and tell your supervisor you want to be responsible for some section of the food bank. You want to take care of irate customers. You want to make sure the shelves are stocked. You want to get people to schedule their work schedules. Scheduling volunteers is a pain. So you go tell your supervisor you want to do all this. She said, okay. She went to her supervisor, called me later and said, this is a great idea. My supervisor loved it because I took work off his shoulders. And I said, okay, so now if you're in an interview with us and we ask you about dealing with a situation where you have an irate customer who's actually wrong, how do you handle that? You're going to have an answer, right? If we ask you about organization skills, you're going to have an answer, right? So that's what you do when you don't have the opportunity to necessarily go to these elite schools with the elite programs where they're funneling you in. You take advantage of whatever opportunity you have. And that's why I refer people back to those 13 dimensions, because if you never work one day with the US State Department or US Foreign Service, but you're good at those 13 dimensions, you're going to be in demand for entrepreneurs, small businesses, major corporations, NGOs, because those skills show that you are a doer, you're a thinker, you make things happen.
For me, I think Alan summed it up very well, and the good advice that he gave on how to gain that experience and opportunities. So I have nothing to add.
Jackie, did you want to add anything? No?
If I can kind of close, then take 60 seconds. Again, keep in mind, students, this is not something you just click a switch on and off. Okay, I'm going to do this in 3 months. I should be there. No. The median age for US Foreign Service entry-level officers has crept up to 32. So you have a long time to develop your skills. Some students get in very early, right out of college, but most of them don't. Those are the people who are usually, they've been in the system since they were freshmen or maybe even high school, or they grew up with their parents in the Foreign Service. I cannot stress enough, if someone goes in the Peace Corps, for example, and does 2 years in the Peace Corps, we are beating down the door to talk to them because they have gone through those 13 dimensions, and it's going to be like sunshine when they join Foreign Service compared to what they're going to experience in the Peace Corps. Same thing, military. People who are in ROTC, put in 5 years or more in the military, they're developing a lot of those leadership skills. If someone's working for an NGO, NGOs don't have money. So you have to figure out creative ways to do a lot of things. When you're doing that, you're figuring out some of those things that we like, that independence, the creativity, the adaptability. So the key thing is, don't be too focused on, with Foreign Service, US Foreign Service, don't be too focused on specific majors or things. Should I take this class or that class? It doesn't matter. Go get good at those 13 dimensions with whatever opportunities you have and go for it.
Well, thank you, Alan, Kathy, and Jackie, for sharing your time with us today and telling us about some wonderful opportunities at your organizations. We appreciate your valuable tips and advice for current students and recent graduates. Thank you for participating in the GSU Global Career Series. We want to thank our audience members for attending this session, for your good questions. We hope that you enjoyed it. This is our last session for the spring, but as I mentioned before, if you missed any of them, they're available on the YouTube channel soon. Finally, I'd like to thank the Atlanta Global Studies Center, the Center for Urban Language Teaching and Research, the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies, the Global Studies Program, and GSU Study Abroad programs for organizing this series. Have a fantastic afternoon. Thank you to all of you.